Welcome back. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and I have with me today Representative Blake Filippi from District 36. 36.
The fighting 36th.
Which is our coastal areas.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Block Island, Charlestown.
South Kingstown and West Shirley.
Okay, I'm never going to remember.
Coastal areas that we know how to manage growth, we know how to manage development, we know how to manage our environmental resources, and we don't like the state coming down and telling us what to do.
Oh, and we're going to get to that. But right now, I just really did want to finish up on the budget. No, those are important.
They are.
Those are really important, not just for your community, but for a lot of communities in the state. But let's finish up. We were talking about 38 studios and the fact that the statute of limitation for criminal prosecution is running out.
For many, so in Rhode Island, the statute of limitation for bribery is 6 years. It's federal, it's 3 years, but it's 6 years here. And if there were
And it's been about
bribes,
5.5 at this point.
it's been 6 since the legislation was passed
Yeah.
in the House authorizing the loan guarantee program. So if bribery occurred before that, it's now passed. Yeah. If it's occurred
Yeah,
after, you got
they've
6 years
just
from when the
been-
payment was made.
They've just been slow walking this. And again, I've put this bill in every year that I've been up there for us to get an independent investigation. This year, we put it in, the bill was written up correctly. The Attorney General has to appoint the independent prosecutor, so they couldn't shoot it down for that. But they still shot it down. I guess nobody's interested in finding out the answers. At least they're not. I think the people of our state really want the answers still.
They do. It was a massive boondoggle. And let's just suppose that everything's going swimmingly with the Attorney General's investigation and the civil suit. That's not how it's perceived. And the perception that things aren't proceeding well is almost as bad as them not proceeding well, because people have lost faith. You know, you have Governor Raimondo saying, like, don't complain, get in the game, and you had the speaker talk about the negative voice or the minority voice of no. It's like that negativity, that skepticism about government investment and what government does, I think finds its root in 38 studios, because this was $112 million fleecing of the taxpayer, and the perception out there is that there has not been an aggressive independent investigation. And whether that's true or not, I won't opine on, but the fact that that is the perception out there means that there needs to be an independent investigation to satiate that desire of the people to have this
And the people have been saying it
investigation.
over and over again, and they're being ignored. And I think that's where a lot of the skepticism comes from, right? People are being ignored. They've asked for this. It's clear it's still a hot button in our state. People want the answers. They think they were fleeced. They want answers. And their desires are being ignored by the rulers up there, or by their by the state leaders, by the ruling class.
So
but
you have the crime and you have a cover-up, and I think in any government fleecing, those are the two elements. I mean, if there was a crime, we need to figure that out, but certainly there is a cover-up of the, if not criminal action, the gross negligence and unfair dealing that created 38 studios. Yeah. There's a cover-up of the incompetence.
What happened, when, by who?
Even if it's not criminal.
Yeah.
Even if it's not criminal, the people need to have someone they can point to and say, they did it, this is what happened. We know a few of the characters, but there's too many missing pieces. There needs to be a full
accounting. And as you mentioned, Kurt Schilling, who's a major player, hasn't even been deposed. So how thorough or how realistic can their investigation be if they haven't even brought him in to talk?
They've deposed all these people. When the Superior Court released the deposition transcripts, I was thrilled. I was looking through them for Kurt Schilling's deposition, because you just presume that he'd be in there. And they haven't deposed Kurt Schilling. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. They've deposed the governor, the ex-speaker of the House, Michael Corso, all these people.
But even when they
Kurt
deposed the ex-speaker
Schilling,
of the House, they allowed him to say client-attorney privilege on so many things that they didn't even get answers there.
The Fifth Amendment he asserted a lot.
I thought it was client-attorney privilege over Gordon Fox's, well, so he doesn't have to testify about Gordon Fox's involvement, but you can't use that to cover up your involvement.
So wait, you to the current Speaker of the House or the former Speaker of the
Former
House?
Speaker.
The former, so you can always assert your right to Fifth Amendment protections.
Oh, okay.
To not be
And so that's what
self-incriminate
he used,
yourself.
Fifth Amendment?
I think over 100 times he asserted his Fifth Amendment right to be silent.
Well, so there's an issue, but let's go on. Our colleague, Anthony Giarrusso, took that money that's in the budget for 38 studios and he wanted to put it into the pension fund.
Agreed.
Which is actually a really good use for it. And I think I'd like you folks out there to understand that what we spend money on has repercussions in your lives as well. The pension fund has no growth. In fact, the unfunded liability has gone up, meaning we're spending more than we're putting in. Not good. The investments in there just haven't been performing. I think they're a bad mixture of investments, but other professionals may think differently. But the point is, Anthony was saying, instead of throwing money down this rabbit hole called 38 studios, let's put it in the pension fund and help make the pension fund stronger.
It's interesting, when you talk about a moral obligation bond, they're really an immoral obligation bond. They're not even legal. They're not even legally binding debts of the state because they were never voted on by the people. That's the only way our state can go into debt. I think we have a much greater moral obligation to put money to the teachers and pensioners who we actually made promises to,
Yep.
than these bondholders, and I don't like to use that term bond to describe these illegal bonds, they're 38 studios bonds, but to these debt instruments where we specifically put in the debt instrument, there's no obligation of the state whatsoever to pay these off.
Exactly.
We have a greater obligation to put
We
that
have a
money
greater
into the pension fund.
Yeah, we do, which is, I think, the point that we tried to make. It was defeated.
But the notion that by defaulting on the 38 studios bonds, it will affect our bond rating, I think it's laughable, because the bond markets are very, very, very intelligent. They can distinguish between moral obligation bonds and general obligation bonds. If we default on 38 studios, it will stop our ability to do moral obligation bonds in the future, and I'm fine with that. But I do
Yes.
not believe it will affect our general obligation bonds. If the rating agencies try and make it affect our general obligation bonds, the bond markets, it's through bidding. They try and give us a higher rate in our initial offering, the public will bid that down. They'll
That's
bid
right.
the bond price down in
The
public offering.
the bond buyers will know that that's.
They'll know. They'll
yeah.
actually probably be happy that we rid ourselves of these unlawful moral obligation bonds and think we're a much better sound investment because we don't have this moral obligation fake debt anymore.
Well, and from the Republican caucus as well, we didn't put it in this year, but we did put it in last year to forbid the state from putting out moral obligation bonds.
You know?
That one was defeated too.
And I was a co-sponsor of Karen McBeth's bill this year to stop paying 38 studios, a separate bill pending the SEC investigation. Oh yeah, everyone, the SEC filed a lawsuit against Commerce.
That's
Rhode
right.
Island.
The SEC
Yep.
found that there was
This spring.
fraudulent activity.
Well, apparent fraudulent activity, and there is a case, so we'll see how that shakes out.
Okay. So we're going to have to take another break and we'll be right back.